podcast.
B for Belle.
S for Shaz. This is just two girls talking BS
And calling BS out.
through our eyes.
Before we start, we'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which this podcast is recorded, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay our respects to the elders past, present, and emerging, and any First Nations people listening to this episode.
Today we're coming to you from two different resort towns. Belle, do you want to tell us a little bit about your resort town? It's a well-deserved vacation after a hectic week, which we will talk about.
Yes,
but tell us about your resort town.
So, for people that are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, just jump on our Instagram or on YouTube to look at. We always try to coordinate our outfit because we do record a video podcast. For me, I'm inspired by the White Lotus.
And I will say, when she said white resort wear, this is my interpretation, and clearly I'm going to a Groupon vacation. Somewhere in Bali, somewhere where it's warm, but it rains as well, hence why I've got my bucket hat on. So clearly, both in resort wear, but very different scales of resort.
Different interpretation, but I love your style. Although, when you walked in, I was like, is that the brief that I gave you? That's kind of what we bring to the podcast. Two different perspectives on
brains
everything.
And beauty and pizzazz Groupon version. But Belle, I think it's really important to focus on why you're on vacation mode this week. Tell me about the amazing Future Future Forte conference.
Yes, thank you. Well, you were there as well. So lovely Shaz came to the Future Forte conference. It is our 5th conference. Can you believe it? I feel so old. But it was a great success. It was such a lovely day to spend with 200-ish of some of our favorite people that are participants, international students and speakers, as well as lots of supporters, sponsors and partners, including Calling BS podcast. So Shaz, you were there with a booth, and I have to say, I think you had the most interesting, intriguing and
She's using words that say that perhaps she was not briefed on what the booth would have.
No, as per usual, you surprised me in the best way possible. So tell us.
Okay, before that, I need to say the Future Forte conference was the most inspiring that I've seen. This has been your baby, and to see it have legs, it feels like a baby has grown up, right? It has legs. Just to see, the minute you walk in, the people, the collective, I felt like when we're walking in life, everyone walks with this kind of stress and anxiety. You walk into a Future Forte environment and it's like, oh, this is my people. I feel empowered. I feel inspired. The talks were brilliant. You were incredible. She was a blur on the day though. She was running around doing everything. The talks were brilliant. My favorite piece was the spotlight speakers. I think it's a new element this time, and it was really choosing some international students to speak about their experience. It was so powerful, to the point the Lord Mayor, secret, was a guest speaker, but was so inspired by them.
And he was overshadowed. May I say he was overshadowed by our students that really brought their hearts. So thank you so much for the lovely words.
Loved it. Okay, Calling BS podcast. The booth was there. We were there. We made our presence be known.
You sure did.
Yeah, so I will let you know that this is whilst it is very empowering and inspiring, it's a very professional conference. It's all about professional empowerment. So you had all these professional booths talking about, important things, and then you had the Calling BS podcast. We had a piñata. Yes. We had a punching bag. Look, it's all in the theme. when I explain it to you, Belle, you're gonna be like, of course that makes sense.
Tell me what I have missed.
Okay, so because our podcast is split into 4 categories. The first part is breaking news. So for breaking news, we actually had a Jenga set and asked international students to tell us about their story. So we had people talk about who they are, when they came to Australia, a little bit about their story, and one thing to represent them. So we have a bunch of these new Jenga stories.
Cute.
So we were using that to build up. So the idea of stories and international students, and of course, a bit of fun.
This is so lovely. What a great idea. And shout out to Lulu Ye and Kifa,
Chris. We have a whole box of these.
Money, please. Same here.
And then, of course, we had...
That's so lovely, Shaz. You have the best ideas. Honestly, you're the most
maybe
creative
crazy
person.
ideas is the way to go. Then we obviously had our punching bag, which was for breaking stereotypes. The idea that come break a stereotype, take out some frustration. So we had a big blow up punching bag as well.
I believe during one of the breaks when I came outside, the punching bag was like half deflated. I was like, this has been well used.
It has been. So yeah, it was a really fun experience. I did have a goal of hitting 100 followers. I didn't quite get there, so if you could do a favor, please like us on Instagram. And help us hit that 100 followers.
Calling BS podcast, but when I jumped onto our Instagram, I think you've tripled the number of followers that we have. So well done, Shaz. Thanks for repping Calling BS at the Future Forte conference. And shout out to anyone who found us on that day. And I hope you enjoy today's episode. Part 1, Breaking Stories. So, alright, let's dive into today's big story, Shaz. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese this week proposed that the government is implementing a social media ban on teenagers next year. What is this? This one is sparking a lot of debate, including among ourselves, and for good reasons. But firstly, Shaz, do you remember a world before social media?
Belle, I'm trying to remember if that even existed. I feel like I was born with an Instagram account. Not that I'm posting anything, but
it's like when you were born, you get a birth certificate and then you get assigned an Instagram account.
Absolutely, that's what I thought it was. But I did think back about it. I feel like we used to write pen pals in school. Was that a thing?
Okay,
Is it a
maybe
figment?
I'm not that old. So I'm sorry, Shaz.
Wow.
I thought we were from the same generation, but
getting roasted here.
Yeah, we totally are. But social media just is so omnipresent these days that when we talk about a social media ban, I really have to think back to a world before social media, and that really is the topic that we want to bring today and talk about the implications.
Yeah, I first heard about this. I was driving in my car and then it was an announcement on ABC News Radio and I was like, wait, what? They're banning social media for what? What's happening? So it really felt like the announcement didn't have many details. So, but just to give you a bit of a brief understanding of at least what my interpretation of this is that the government is planning to raise the minimum age for social media use somewhere between 14 to 16, with the government implying that it's going to be on the higher end. So I think the implication is that 16 is going to be the age.
Yeah. Well, 16 is, I think, around the time when I started using Instagram, which seems like a lifetime ago, and also 16 seems a lot older than the kids that we see are on TikTok these days. So sure enough, this proposed ban has stirred up a lot of storm, and we really want to get deep into this.
Wow, you were 16? I think I was a bit younger. I think I was on MSN and every time my crush would come in, I would sign in, sign out.
MSN is not a social media. Okay, maybe it is, but not in the way that people are using them these days in smartphones.
True.
MSN. What a time. MySpace. Friendster.
Bieber. Bieber, you could send her. Is okay.
I don't know Bieber.
Speaking my age.
Those were the times.
So, what's actually bringing the ban? And like, why this conversation? Why this all of a sudden? And I think it's really to do with the government being worried about the harmful content that young people are being exposed to. That's things like pornography, violent videos, and misogynistic messages. So the South Australian government actually handed down one of the most kind of detailed examinations of how a possible social media ban would look like. And this was completed by the former High Court Justice Robert French. It's 277 pages. So I did a bit of a brief squiz.
Thank you for doing us a public service.
But the main points is, look, 1/3 of girls and 1/4 of boys have been contacted by a stranger online.
Wow.
And 1 in 5 of them have been sent unwanted, inappropriate content that could be classified as maybe violent or pornographic.
It's really shocking.
Yeah.
Like the proportion that you just read out there is just really shocking. And I suppose with this ban, before this announcement, I kind of like peripherally had been aware of kind of rumblings around a campaign recently that's called 36 Months. It was created by, I think, some high-profile Australians, and there are some media personalities behind this as well, that is calling for the government to create legislation that raised the age from 13 to 16. So when this kind of ban discussion came out, I was like, oh yeah, actually I feel like this has been going on for a while, coming from parents of like concerned parents of teenagers. That's the reason why parents are really worried. So in preparation for this podcast, we both looked into getting some facts around this issue, basically, and they rightfully, a lot of experts are saying that this kind of content normalize aggressive or harmful behaviors like domestic violence, homophobia, and transphobia, and they've linked this to their Stop It at the Start campaign that is encouraging parents to be more aware of what's influencing their kids online.
Yeah. Belle, thanks for that context. I really wasn't aware about the 36-month campaign, so interesting to hear that there have been conversations about this. One of the other sides is with the social media ban is that it's not just about the explicit content. It's really about we've been on social media. Sometimes social media
makes you feel a bit shit.
Yes, that anxiety, the depression, a bit of oh my God, am I, like, you see everyone's highlight reel and you assume that's their life, as opposed to people aren't really sharing their downs, and so you feel that you're always behind. So in 2022, Headspace did a bit of a survey. It's called the National Youth Mental Health Survey, and they found more than half of the young population, so 57%, believe that their mental health is actually getting worse. And of that, 42% have cited social media as the main reason for this decline.
Yeah, and this is really concerning, but I'm not surprised at all, because you and I are, we're both users of social media, and we actually came into using social media a bit older, so we feel like had more perspectives than the younger teenagers. So it's I can totally see how it happened.
And it didn't feel so in your face, like social media, like now it's on your phone, it's on your computer, it's on everything. It feels like it's this invisible shadow that follows you around. Whereas when I was growing up, like, we still had broadband. I needed to connect to the internet, so it didn't feel as prevalent, like you said.
Yeah, totally. And it is, these statistics are really alarming, but what really got me were reading some of the real stories behind these numbers. For instance, there have been several cases in Australia and globally where teens have died by suicide after experiencing cyberbullying or exposure to harmful content online, and we really should give a bit of a trigger warning for anyone. Skip ahead 10-15 minutes if the talk of mental health and people die by suicide is quite triggering to you. So it, in addition to, I feel like all of these issues are quite linked. Seeing those kind of aggressive and violent and pornographic content and people engaging with one another in a more heightened way between teenagers, that's where things like cyberbullying can occur. And in some cases, it's the kind of online harassment and sexual harassment as well.
Yeah, and I think social media exacerbates the problem in the way that it feels like a pile-on. Like, instead of it's one person liking it, it's 100 likes. And it magnifies that issue of harassment, and whether it be an organized campaign, or whether it just be people liking mean things, it can really feel like, oh no, the whole world is actually against me, as opposed to, oh, okay, these people are mean and this is a mean group. So yeah, I can definitely empathize, and if I put myself in those shoes, feel that sense of, oh my God, the whole world is turning in on me.
Totally. And when these kind of interactions happen online as well, it's different from if it happens in a schoolyard where you actually see that person. Not that there aren't any, mean or bullying incidents at schools. It happens, but the idea that when it happens online, because everyone is like behind a screen, you don't actually see that person. Sometimes you can flatten the image of someone and really dehumanize someone in the ways that you engage with them, but they can create really serious impact and harm on the victims. So earlier this year, the US Congress conducted a hearing titled Big Tech and the Online Child Sexual Exploitation Crisis. I don't know if you saw coverage of this earlier in the year, but it left an impression on me, the image where Mark Zuckerberg went to Congress, and in the background all the parents with their kids' photos. They were just holding up their kids' photos. They lost their kids to all of the issues that we discussed previously, and they want to hold these big tech companies responsible, because I personally do think that platforms like Facebook and Instagram have been getting away for a long time without putting in those checks and balance and those stops to look after young people who use their platform.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And now with Gen AI, and especially AI images, this is an issue that's only going to get bigger, and we've already started seeing this. You saw this with the Taylor Swift, these really horrific pornographic images of Taylor Swift. So if someone with that level of stardom can get their image taken and sexually exploited as an individual, it is, and we've heard these stories. We've heard about like online Twitch streamers using it to get, using these fake Gen AI models to use other content creators, and the tool is there and it is being misused, and the people that it is harming, that there is no way to stop it, and it is really unfortunate. And then Facebook and Instagram and TikTok magnifying it is a horrific situation.
Absolutely, and that is a new and scary way to perpetrate violence against women. We know that it takes a toll on anyone who falls victim to that. I just cannot imagine for kids, for children and teenagers, who are at the receiving end of that. So I suppose I can totally see the rationale behind this proposed ban.
Yeah, and look, on the flip side, many social platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Snapchat do actually already have an age limit. They require users to be at least 13, but the rule is very, very easy to bypass. You can very quickly enter a fake birth date, or simply tap yes. Many of us probably have done it, when you're signing up to something and you just kind of scroll through and go, yep, this is a new email address, this is my birthday, yep, sign me up, I want that 10% discount. So it is very easy to bypass this.
Totally. That's like you say, the flip side of the discussion of this ban. I think we all agree with the rationale, but how can this actually be implemented and imposed? This is where it gets tricky. So what the government is currently proposing, and as I understand, they are just going out to tender now, so they don't actually know what it will look like. But some of the things that they've discussed are proposing using digital IDs for age verification. Some of them propose using AI. So I don't know how, perhaps looking at how you look and make that decision, which is a bit iffy, but AI is really powerful. So I don't know, maybe a combination of those. But there really are just so many challenges. I was thinking about with kids. Kids are so much more tech savvy these days. So I feel like coming up with a strategy that is not easily circumvented by kids, it's going to be really hard, technologically, really challenging.
Yeah. According to a 2022 report by the e-Safety Commissioner, about 45% of Australian kids aged 8 to 12 are actually already on social media, and that's despite the current under 13 ban.
That's shocking. Oh my gosh, half of the kids between 8 to 12. And this is with the current limit of 13 years old.
Absolutely.
And now we're talking about raising that age.
Yeah. And so what happens to these kids that are already on the platforms? Are they going to get kicked off? How do you police this without creating a whole new level of surveillance? You talked about the digital ID. You talked about the AI verification. Look, I like to think that I look pretty young. So can AI accurately predict age? Is there going to be a element of, gender identification and things like that? So there are these real big concerns about how does this actually work on the ground?
How do you enforce it in the digital age? And really, whose responsibility is this? It really is a real issue. I don't think anyone would disagree with that, but it is a hot potato that everyone tries to pass it on to someone else because it's going to be a very expensive problem to solve. With this ban, some people say that the government is overreaching. It should be like individual parents' responsibility, but at least the ones that I have heard, parents are totally at their wits' end, and they really want the government to do something. And there are talks that government should regulate social media companies, like what the US Congress is trying to do. But it's so hard the big tech has really free reign on a lot of things, and for Meta's part, they argue that it is Apple and Google App Store that should be responsible for age verification, because that's currently how you sign into App Store. No one wants to take responsibility for that.
So that's kind of the space of what the issue is, why there is a need for it. So what's the public and expert reactions like?
Yeah, with this Pandora's box, really, that is how can we close this Pandora's box? Politically, in Australia, there is pushback from certain groups where, while there's bipartisan support for the move, with major parties backing it, the Greens are worried about the privacy implications, and they are coming out to say that they disagree with the ban. They push for a harm reduction approach, which, I suppose there's arguments on both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's not just about restricting access, it's also about how are kids engaging online, especially on major platforms like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, which actually feels like a second home to many teens.
Yeah. Have you seen the younger people's screen time?
Yeah.
It's shocking.
Oh my God. I actually have some stats on this.
Please.
So Australia, population are about 26 million. 20 million of these Australians are actually active social media users. So that doesn't mean everyone, but there is 20 million user accounts linked to Australians. Yep. And they spend on average about 6 hours daily on these platforms. And TikTok is obviously leading in terms of the social media platform where people actually spend the most time. Look, I think restricting access can also have serious impacts. So teens say that they use social media to actually stay in touch with friends and family. That's about 60% of the people surveyed saying, hey, we actually use social media as a way to communicate. Some of them, about 44% of them use it to just kill some time, fill up some spare time, and then 28% actually use it to discover new content. So it's a bit of a mixed bag in terms of, why people are using social media.
Yeah, and often it's all of the above as well. So when we talk about banning their access to social media, we need to take that into consideration. And publicly, it is also mixed. Honestly, some parents are breathing a sigh of relief, just like, as a parent, knowing the serious consequences out there, you had to be quite worried about this issue. So some parents are in support. I think a lot of parents are in support of this.
And I think everyone can understand the feeling of wanting to protect your child. But look, experts are pretty divided on this issue as well. So it's not just the parents. Some psychologists really support the idea and argue that it can reduce exposure to harmful content and really improve mental health outcomes. But others, like the Australian Psychological Society, actually argue a ban could be counterproductive.
Right.
And really recommend on focusing on digital literacy, resilience, and safe online practices. So the experts themselves are also divided when it comes to how can we best protect children online.
Yeah, it really is a complex issue. The privacy advocates also are concerned that more age verification means that you need to collect more data from kids. So there are also concerns about infringement on young people's rights and potentially exposing them to even more risks.
Yeah. And then finally, it's the kids. What are the kids saying?
The most important stakeholders on this issue.
Yeah. So I did a bit of a Reddit search, and I know that's not a real pulse check, but I saw.
Also, are kids supposed to be on Reddit now?
I don't know, but one of the comments that I thought really made sense to me was, it's news.com that's actually affecting my mental health, which I thought was a
Fox
fun
News that is affecting all of our mental health and democracy.
Absolutely. But I think that's that in itself is a bit of an indication. Some of the kids are speaking out saying it really feels like, again, adult overreach. They're trying to control their lives without really understanding how social media is important to them. It's some of them, that's their first foray into like building themselves as an influencer or building a business. And it's not just entertainment. They're saying this is their primary way of finding support, whether it be through, sexuality, in terms of gender presentation. So they're finding they're saying they're using social media to build those friendships, explore themselves, but in an environment where perhaps they don't feel comfortable talking to an adult. So, and some of them are even using it to engage in activism. We saw this after,
so true.
With the gun reform and school shootings in America. You see a lot of young children advocating and using social media to get their point across. So it is a bit of a mixed bag in terms of what the kids want as well. On ABC News Radio, they interviewed a few young people, and one of them goes, I think under 12 on TikTok is wrong. So even the kids can identify that there is an issue, but perhaps, again, not sure on how to best police it.
Yeah, I also heard from another source as well who interviewed some of the kids. I think some of the older teens do understand the harm that social media is causing on their mental health. But yeah, as you said, I feel like the trickiest part are the groups of people who are currently on social media. They might have used it for several years, and now if the government comes in to say, we're going to put a ban in and now you can no longer use social media, I think that will be a really hard thing to do.
Can I just give a shout out to 6 News? That is how I get my news. And it is a news platform that started with an year 6 student. Leo, absolutely follow 6 News. They are like a 24-hour media channel. Wow. They release news and they talk about Australian news. It's an Australian school student. So this is a business that they have created.
Year 6, did you say?
Year 6, 11 years old. 11 years old. So no, were they allowed to be on social media? According to this ban, no. But again, these are some of these examples of the stakeholders. Positive use.
Yeah,
so,
totally.
Belle, what do you think?
What do we think? We are...
Because clearly we are important stakeholders.
Totally. Clearly our opinions are important. So what would we say to Anthony Albanese? Well, my view is that, honestly, politicians and government authorities really, especially in this space, are dinosaurs. I feel like even we are dinosaurs. So I don't think that these older people who are making the rules know how social media works. So it will be really hard. I have sympathy for them in terms of this being an issue that they need to pay attention to. But I think it will be really hard for them to catch up with young people. On the other hand, I have to say that I think social media companies have gotten away with it for way too long. They have caused so much harm, and they ought to be held responsible. They are businesses. They are not going to do it out of the goodness of their hearts, but how do we make them do that? That's the $1 million question. That's the $1 billion question.
$1 billion question. I 100% agree with you on that. I think social media companies have to be held accountable. However, I'm not sure about this age ban. I understand that both there is government and parental support. I think it's very interesting that it's coming during an election year.
Yes.
So I don't think...
And who doesn't have a vote yet?
Exactly. It's the children. So I can see why the government would float such a ban, but I'm not really sure that it can be enforced effectively to actually... If our goal is to truly protect children, I do not think it can be enforced in this current state. I think there actually needs to be more regulations around the algorithms. I think all these social media companies, whether it be you watch a YouTube video and you might be curious, you might heard of these certain words, and then it suggests promoting more of the same thing. Same with TikTok. You might go like, oh, I like this dress, and you kind of click onto this, and then it sends you down like a body dysmorphia angle. So I think there is some kind of regulation around the algorithms and what it promotes you, as opposed to the people on it, and also the algorithms that make it so addictive. I think that's really unfair, and the onus is on the individual as opposed to these companies that are creating all of this.
Absolutely. That's really smart, Shaz. That's a smart idea. No wonder you work in the digital health space, for those who don't know.
And the final thing that I'll say, my biggest concern, and is
the 6 media might be removed.
And then where would I get my news from?
You have to watch Fox News. God forbid.
I think I might
tap
out of news altogether. No, my biggest concern is really around that linking of digital and real identity on social media. I think about a future where everything you post or you view, or you kind of just are, I'm curious about this, becomes, it can be tracked. It really reminds me of like a bit of an episode in Black Mirror. Totally. And so I'm a little bit worried about that.
I know which one that you're referring to. Yeah, that sends me chills down my spine, because it feels like a few steps removed from our current lives. But yeah, with most social issues, it is really complex, and it is so interrelated with all of our lives and the kids' lives as well, and we are talking about millions and millions of people. So my view is that one blanket rule and a ban is quite a blunt instrument. It's not going to fix it. I agree that a comprehensive, holistic approach is needed, but for me, I will wait and see how the trial goes. And yeah, it doesn't mean that the ban couldn't be a useful stick to use in addition to a whole suite of support and initiatives.
So absolutely, we're going to keep an eye on this story as it develops, and want to know, as listeners, what do you think? Is a ban a good idea, or are we calling BS?
Tell us, how many of you are under 16 and you are worried about the ban coming in?
And Albo, if you want to give us a call to hear our perspectives, we're available.
Totally. We
send us a
be
DM.
Advisors. Alright, our next segment is Breaking Stereotypes, where we both bring to the table 2 people who have broken stereotypes, and typically we try to bring people that are related to our biggest story. Shaz.
Look, for my breaking stereotype, I wanted to think about, social media, computers, and so I went into history, and I went back to recent history, to a person who literally revolutionized the way we work.
Tell me more.
Her name is Evelyn Berezin, and she was born in 1925. You might have not heard of this name, but you've probably used some of the things that she's done. So she was a female inventor, she was an engineer, and she was an entrepreneur and founder of one of the world's first tech startups.
Wow, she's Mark Zuckerberg before Mark Zuckerberg in 1925, before Silicon Valley exists.
Exactly. And she's actually credited with developing the first computerized word processor, which she called Data Secretary. This invention actually allowed us to edit, to cut, to paste, and delete text without retyping the entire pages. So
Thank you, Evelyn.
Yes. So Control Z, Control C, Control V. It's her invention.
Wow.
So this is back in the day where people used to have typewriters and you would make a mistake. You'd have to chuck away the paper. She's actually created a version where you don't have to chuck out the paper, where you can actually re-edit it.
Wow.
So it was in 1969 that she actually started her company. She was born in 1925.
Oh yeah, sorry, I got confused.
No, you were like, she's ahead of her time.
I know
she was going to be a groundbreaker.
I know, she's like, before everyone else. Okay, this makes more sense.
And so she actually launched Redactathon to manufacture and sell this invention.
Redactron, sorry.
Clearly, I need to Control Z,
Control Z.
to edit it. So thank you, Belle. And she was the founder and president, and she actually, one of her first people that she partnered with was with law firms and corporate clients who quickly saw the value in cutting the labor cost of typing and re-editing. And so she also did one other thing, which you're probably used to, which is the first computerized airline reservation system.
Wow.
So incredible woman.
So impressive. How have I never heard of her? So thank you for bringing this to the table, Shaz.
Probably never heard of her because she was a female scientist in 1970s.
So true. But we are reversing this. We are pushing back, and we're shining a spotlight on women's achievements. Well, the person that I'm bringing to the table is someone more contemporary. She is a current e-safety commissioner in Australia. Her name is Julie Inman Grant. And she is leading the charge in online safety and digital regulation. And this is the first government kind of regulator of its kind in the world. So Australia is actually quite ahead in terms of looking at e-safety. And she has lots of experience working for tech giants like Microsoft and Twitter. And I think this is the kind of leaders that we need to actually understand where the levers are, where she can pull. And one of her most notable achievements is the implementation of the Online Safety Act. But for me, the reason why I am a fan of hers is that she recently clashed with Elon Musk over her attempt to have violent content removed from X, his platform. So if you recall this kind of horrific incident a few months ago, there was a stabbing that happened in a church, and it was recorded and it was uploaded and distributed on X. And as part of her role, Julie Inman Grant went to court to ask X to remove that, and Elon Musk is like, hell no, we're not going to do that, it's free speech. What a stupid man. And irresponsible. Well, the case was dropped, but unfortunately, she received death threats following the legal dispute. Can you believe it? Actually, I can.
Yeah,
this
I was
is
going to say.
the kind of followers that Elon Musk has. But anyone who stands up to Elon Musk, I respect. So
she sounds incredible. I will be following her and her career. She sounds like someone who's really going to help protect Australians and really kind of lead the way globally around online safety. So I'm excited. I will follow her. Thank you so much for bringing her to the table.
You're welcome.
In our next segment, the segment that we called Bold or Silly, Belle and I are going to be sharing stories from around the world that'll hopefully bring a smile or a bit of inspiration to you.
Not always, but sometimes.
Either of us do not know what we're bringing to the table. So, Belle, why don't you go first?
Okay, I feel like I cannot go without talking about this. The debate. Did you watch it, Shaz? How much information have you absorbed from this debate? For the uninitiated, it is Kamala Harris and Donald Trump's first and only debate because he refused to debate her again.
I have seen so many cat and dog memes that I cannot believe that is the state of the election. So
totally. I feel like any election that involves Donald Trump is an unbelievable one. So let me do a quick recap of what happened. The proceedings began with an awkward handshake because Donald Trump was kind of refusing to shake, anyone's hands because he's just the kind of person that he is.
I also think he's a germaphobe.
Oh, is he? Anyway, but Kamala Harris walked over to his podium and really graciously shook his hand, and I think he was a little bit rattled from that very beginning. She is very composed throughout the whole 90 minutes, and she landed several blows. Particularly, there are a few of my favorites.
Hit me, Belle. Tell me some zingers.
Okay, she knew how to push his buttons, and she came prepared. That woman is incredible. She was really in her element. She made fun of his rallies of like how people are exhausted and bored. She's like, people leave his rallies early because out of exhaustion or boredom, and you can just see Donald Trump's like years. It's like filming. He's like, I cannot believe that you're talking about.
He literally turned into a tomato.
Yes, the kind of petty things that only he would care about. There was also, I think this was the trigger to him starting to talk about false stories about immigrants eating people's pets. I can't even. Tell me about those memes.
Oh, part of me is, it's so ludicrous and so hilarious that I'm like, it's so silly. But it also is like a callback to previous, old school racism where people used to be like, oh yeah, Asians, the cats and the dog. And it triggered me in a way that I forgot I could be triggered. So initially when I first heard it, I was like, this is so dumb, and I kind of laughed it off. But then I just remember like growing up in Australia and hearing about like, oh, what do you eat? Do you remember that kind of racism? So I think it was actually strategic in a way that perhaps no one has talked about. But yeah, I think it was old school racism.
Oh, that completely flew over my head, and now I'm getting angry. Now that you talked about this, the other thing that I was like completely confused about is, how abortion is a critical issue this year in this election, and Trump was like repeatedly saying that these Democrats, these people, they kill babies after they're born. I was like, dude, this is not called abortion. If they are after them, firstly, no place in the world would this be legal. Secondly, like, what are you talking about?
Oh my gosh! I think he was confusing murder with abortion, which is access to healthcare.
Totally.
Like the fact that we're even framing abortion in this framework is inappropriate. It's access to healthcare. Oh, it makes me so furious.
I know. Well, but we can safely say that Harris totally won that debate to the point that Donald Trump is like chickening out of any future debates with her.
Have you seen? Oh, sorry to interrupt, but have you seen that people think her earrings were a way of people
Really?
Giving her speaking notes? Hence why Trump lost. Apparently, that's talk of the town.
Sure, they would say anything. They would make up any lies to not admit defeat. And a lovely cherry on the top. To top the evening of, Taylor Swift officially endorsed Kamala Harris on her Instagram, and I hope that Donald Trump is done. I hope, but it's hard to say. How do you feel? Like, do you feel optimistic about the outcome?
I think everything you said, like, you framed it so well. I think it was so important. It is so frustrating that it's still a bit of a coin toss about who might win the election. Like, so that true. To me is crazy.
Bizarre.
Yeah, it's bizarre. So I think it's a watch and wait. It's my blood pressure. We all need to be hooked up on blood pressure monitors because...
I know. Yeah, it was... it was interesting, but yes, in terms of, I agree with you that in terms of whether it has really shifted the dial, it's so hard to say.
Yeah. I feel like, I loved it because she won and it was a dominating victory and there were some really good singers, but yeah.
Who knows? Oh well. Moving on, Shaz, you have a story to share with us from different part of the world, which is really important. And I know that for my friends who are from that region, this has been huge. So can you explain to us?
Absolutely. In the last 2 months, Bangladesh has been going through a bit of a significant monumental shift. And this is coming off the end of 2 decades of kind of dictatorial authoritative rule. Last month, student protests began in Bangladesh, and this is because of a quota system. So the government had said 30% of government jobs were for liberation war veterans and their families. So not just the war veterans, but also their next generations.
Okay.
And then this also kind of, other than it being very unfair, kind of also boiled over into, hey, the cost of living's really high. There is a large number of people who do not have, young people who do not have jobs and do not see a future for them in Bangladesh's current system. There's also concerns about inflation and corruption. And so students really took to the streets, and there were protests, and they demanded a merit-based system, arguing that the current one was really unfair. And so as the protests intensified, the government actually responded quite brutally. They cut off mobile internet, imposed a national curfew, and deployed the army and the police.
This is shocking.
Yeah, it was really intense, and you would have seen, if anyone follows BBC, it was all over BBC, Al Jazeera covered it. And so after the violent clashes, the Supreme Court actually reduced the quota from 30% to 5%, but the students were already angry because during these protests, there were these violent clashes where students were murdered. And so
it's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the protesters wanted accountability for those that were killed. And so during all of the situation, calls for the Prime Minister to step down. So Sheikh Hasina has been the Prime Minister. And when I say democratically elected, some of her opposition members had been jailed. So previously, so there's already concerns about her, but there were real big calls for her to step down. She eventually had to flee the country. Wow. The turmoil had actually led to around 300 deaths.
Oh God!
So it's quite a significant change that's happened. So there's been thousands of people arrested, and it's been driven by the anger of the repressive political climate, economic issues, and complete government failures in addressing inequality and inflation. But I think why we're bringing this and why we're calling this a very bold story is that this is a Gen Z-led movement. Young people started it. They created this change. Right now, there is a bit of a power vacuum, though, and so there's a bit of a significant opportunity to empower young people, and I think young people are leading the charge here. But it's a bold story. The reason why I'm bringing this is we talked about young people at the start, but young people as a force of good and momentum to build change. I think this is really important, and we're going to watch this space and just see what's happening.
Yeah, it's a heavy topic and heavy news story, given the number of people killed and the number of casualties and people affected. So we're thinking of anyone who is based in Bangladesh or who are from Bangladesh and who have friends and family there. But it really is I think a lot of people are, despite how hard this period of time is, there's a lot of optimism with the change.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important point. Thank you for touching on that. I think people are saying, oh, wow, when we come together, we can actually create change. And for a long time, that hasn't felt like that's been the case.
Yeah. Well, thanks for breaking this story down for us so nicely. My second story is a short one, and it is also a bold one. So engineer Sarah Gillis, along with entrepreneur, billionaire Jared Isaacman, made history this week by making the first privately funded excursion outside a spacecraft. Space Story. This is quite crazy for private companies to go into space. This has been just really exciting. How do you
Technically, you broke the brief, Belle, because we said stories from around the world and you went out of space. So
yeah, true. Clearly, we might have to change the description next time. Story from around the universe.
The universe. Oh, I like that. No, wow. Tell me, cool. This is I've always been obsessed and a little bit scared of space. So this is kind of one of those things where I'm like, yay them, but Yay for them.
Well, I know. I saw the picture, and yeah, it was just so. It's a sight to behold. It was the first commercial spacewalk, and the reason why they did that was to test a slimmed down spacesuit that is designed by SpaceX. Anyway, second mention of Elon Musk. But SpaceX is so much bigger than this one person, and when you see that photo, it was quite. It was just really interesting, and they were saying that they kind of. The way that they did it is by poking their upper bodies out of the hatch of the SpaceX Dragon capsule. I just thought that description was quite funny. But yeah, really shout out to Sarah Gillis, who is a senior engineer. She's only 30 at SpaceX, and she has spent years working on missions from the ground. So it's a huge moment for her.
It's amazing. She's so young, and to have been the first commercial, like to break so many ceilings is incredible. And to do it in outer space, go Sarah.
In style.
Go Sarah. I love the story. Also, quick question, how many tampons do they spend to send to space?
Do you want to give the background to anyone who doesn't get this?
So there was a space flight, and I think it was only going for like a month or
a few weeks or something. It's the first like female astronaut.
Yeah, female astronaut, and NASA had said had put in 100 tampons. How many tampons do you think people use? And it just became this story about inequality, about astronaut suits, and like just this lack of understanding of females.
This is really funny. Anyway,
so thank you for bringing this story. I hope she didn't have 1,000 or 100 tampons.
Oh, all right, Shaz.
My final story. Still continuing with the laughs on this one. We've given you some really big, bold stories and some really heartwarming stories. It's time for a bit of a silly story.
Please bring me silly.
So there is a hippopotamus
that is hippopotamus.
Me too. That is causing a fan frenzy in Thailand and across social media as well. We'll put the picture up. This hippo is called Moo Deng, and this roughly translates to bouncy pig.
Oh God.
It is such a cute hippo. It's a 2-month-old female pygmy hippo and has gone viral online and has really attracted queues across. It is so cute. Belle's just seen the picture. It is so cute because it is a very expressive baby hippo. And so numbers have doubled. They really want to see her. She was born in July, like me.
I want to see her.
She is so cute.
You are also a bouncy.
I'm also a bouncy pig, as Belle says.
In the nicest way possible. It is now a compliment.
Absolutely. She's a dwarf hippo, and they're native to West Africa, and they're technically classified endangered by the International Union for Conservation of Nature. And so there's less than 3,000 in the world, and she is a cutie. She's very expressive in her social media videos. So to just talk about how much of a celebrity she is, the zoo has around 150 social media posts. 128 of them are about Moo Deng.
I'm following the zoo right now.
There's also a range of merchandise. So she's got shirts, she's got a trouser combination. You can buy them from the zoo and buy them online. Also, other brands are getting on board. And I mean, big famous brands. Like Sephora.
How?
Beauty retailer Sephora had put out a advertisement with Moo Deng inspired blushes, because when you see the hippo, she's got like these cute little peachy cheeks, and so you can wear your blush like a baby hippo.
Oh, this is so cute. I don't know why Sephora is doing this, but we should embrace the blush like Moo Deng does.
Moo Deng.
Do it Moo Deng way.
I love that.
Now it's time for calling BS. Or stand by it. Right. This is our favorite part because it's the most unhinged part. We just bring different things and we just judge them.
I know.
Different things from the culture.
We've got our paddles ready.
Exactly. They have the culture and us in a stranglehold. So the first one that I'm bringing for debate
Yes.
is from the debate.
Oh, yes, of course it is, Belle.
Pun
Hit me.
intended. The dog memes. Do you enjoy the dog memes? I know that we hate the racist part of it, but people are so funny. People from the internet are so funny. I saw one, okay, could be one of my favorites. That's like every dogs in Springfield, every dogs in United States watching this debate right now, and then they just like have a dog. It's like looking really weird faces, just like all of the different dogs. And I'm just like, cuties. Yeah, you're so funny.
I 100% agree. On saying that, I also love the Future Forte picture with your dog, and so look, dogs on social media, I'm on board. I love it. I stand by it too. And I stand by the witty one-liners like they have.
Yes, people are so funny, and shout out to Billy, my border collie.
Billy, more famous than both of us combined.
For good reasons.
Absolutely. All right. For my first one, I am doing a bit of a throwback to our previous episode. We talked about the Olympics, and as part of the Olympics, we were introduced to the one, the only Professor Reagan. She is now ranked number 1 in the world. She is.
I don't understand. I am so confused.
So she's ranked number 1 because there's a number of competitions that people, like athletes, can do that contribute to their rankings. And because...
Okay, the rules needs to be changed.
The rules need to be
It
changed.
just does not make any sense.
So Belle's already calling BS on it.
I'm calling
She's
full
smelling
BS.
it. Oh, so you are not a fan of the Reagan? Look, she's 36. She's got a professorship. She went to the
Maybe.
Olympics. She scored a free trip to Paris. I mean, she's
We want a
swindling
free
the
trip.
system.
I know. We want a free trip to Paris as well. Do you think that a 36-year-old professor doing breaking is like us doing a podcast?
Belle, too close to home.
Too close to home. Okay, I mean, much have been said and analyzed about this whole phenomenon. So I'm not going to elaborate too much on it, but I'm just gonna say white mediocrity. Like, that's what I call BS. You know what I mean? Like, she's now hanging out with, and I don't want to make it about her personally. It's like the issue is bigger than her. It is like a pattern that we see over and over and over again. And she's now hanging out with Richard Branson, and just like, you know.
Yeah, she's definitely going to be a celebrity. She's definitely going to be on Dancing with the Stars.
I know.
Like,
I'm a celebrity. Get me out of here.
yeah.
Get me out of here.
But you know what? The audacity. I could never, so I am on board.
Okay, I'm happy for you.
She doesn't look very happy, guys. Next one.
The third one, I feel like we are aging ourselves by bringing this. Because this was popular between our last podcast and this podcast. Between episode 4 and episode 5, something came and went.
Yes.
And it is very demure, very mindful.
Very cutesy.
Very, very cutesy. I love that trend, but it scares me how quickly they come and go. I feel like one day they are on trend. After 2 days, they are no longer on trend.
I 100% agree. I love that it was started by someone who is who identifies as gender diverse, and because of the virality has now been able to fund their gender reassignment surgery. So that is a really cool story. I love that. Ding 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 on that one. I think what happened is that all the corporations jumped on board.
Totally.
And it was like corporations going very mindful, and it was
Including
like
Future Forte.
Future
But we
Forte
are
is
not
different.
a corporation.
Future Forte is different.
And we have young people, so we are allowed.
We are young people.
No, you're not, Shaz. But I'm into the trend, and I love that. I love that she has managed to do that.
Yeah.
From this moment, so I feel like it's a positive news all around.
I stand by the trend. I am very afraid of how fast things are trend come and go.
I know.
All right.
But our listeners, you have us bringing this segment to you every month. So
have-
I think you should be okay.
Yeah. And it's called being aware of the ecosystem.
Yes, we're not in it, but we are peripherally aware.
All right, but my
I'm
one,
excited about this one actually.
I am. We've seen all types of apology tours. We've seen singing apology tours. We have heard of celebrities who have done bad things and then told the public about it. This one was unexpected. So Dave Grohl is
Unexpected.
Is like this beloved celebrity. Is part of the Foo Fighters.
Yes.
Which
And he used to be in Nirvana.
Yes, used to be Nirvana, Foo Fighters, has always been this man that's held up as always being on the right side of history, always doing the right thing. Came out and said, I'm so sorry, I fathered a child out of wedlock. Apologies to my wife and children.
Yeah, coming from Dave Grohl is quite surprising, and the fact that he did it on Instagram, like this, I don't know, 55-year-old man,
And I know you shouldn't buy into people's celebrityness, and you shouldn't buy into the.
We're disappointed.
Yes,
you are one of the last good men. Why do you have to do this?
So I am calling BS on the audacity of it all.
The audacity.
Yeah.
Totally. That is it. But they were saying that the reason why he had to come out and come to be honest about his second family is that the cost of living crisis has hit men who have second families, and now they can't afford their second families in private anymore.
We're totally keeping that in, and I do not stand by the cost of living, but if it is going to
expose more men
cheaters, love it.
Okay, the next one is a quick one. But I wanted to get your thoughts about the real life succession that is happening. So Rupert Murdoch is going to court with, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but basically he is trying to maintain the control that his eldest son Lachlan Murdoch, or Kendall some would say, have over their family trust. So over his 3 other elder kids.
Yeah.
I am loving that real life succession drama.
I love that he's 96, 98, I don't know, old, onto his 5th wife. I love the hot son's the nice one.
James?
Yeah, the one that's not going to inherit it is the nice one.
Yes.
Is the good one.
Yes.
I love that there's sides. I love that we're rooting for it. I don't know what's happening. It's messy and I love it.
I know, messy drama, even though there will be significant consequences as to, given the influence that the Murdoch family empire has in news and public sentiment and democracy.
How they have changed the course of history in the last 20, 30, 40 years has been insane. So, calling BS on that part, but the messiness of an empire crumbling. Get me more episodes.
The real life succession. I hope that every time when they step into court, they play that intro music.
Love it. All right, for my one, again, a bit of a throwback to our first episode.
I know, I can't believe it happened so quickly. Our first episode was 5 months ago, and we were talking about love is in the air. Our favorite couple is back. Now they are off again. Tell us who they are.
Is it breakup season, Belle? J-Lo and Ben. Jenny from the block is single Jenny from the block.
Oh, Jen!
I was rooting for this, but I love a girl who knows how to stand up in the face of adversity. She did a bit of a, you know when you're fresh off a breakup and you put on a thirst trap?
Yes, she's been doing that.
She has been she's a thirst trap queen. I love her for it.
Yes.
But yeah, is it breakup season?
Well, on Jen and Ben, firstly, I think Ben is an asshole. He's a very hot man. You know that I simp for Ben Affleck. Young Ben Affleck. But he just can't get his shit together because he's lost so many good, really amazing women like Jen Garner and J-Lo.
He
Ben,
just
what are
looks
you
really
doing?
grumpy. I'm not into that.
He
His
is.
face annoys me. So I know you think he's a hottie, but I'm calling quits on that.
I know. Anyway, but the funniest thing about this breakup was the photo with J-Lo and Matt Damon. Have you seen it? It's a picture that tells like 1,000 words.
Yes, I love that one. I also love the memes about like, oh, don't worry, the next season will be in the next 10 years. So we'll just be in this circle of breakup and makeup for the next 10 years. And that gives me hope. That's like, you know, when you finish crying and you're like, what's the light at the end of the tunnel? For me, it's the fact that in 10 years, hopefully they get back together.
I don't know if that's good for J-Lo, but I'm into the story now that we're like 20, 30 years into it.
Yeah.
Anywho, all right, the next one is super short because I just wanted to bring this to the table and see how you feel about it. Speaking of older men, older men who used to be hot and hip and stuff, Oasis return. So a little bit of backstory. I do like that song, Wonderwall.
I only know that song.
Okay, same. Okay, I also have heard another song but Wonderwall is old that you need to know. Apparently they were really hip in the 80s 90s. They are two brothers and
Who hate each other.
There's so much drama and then the band broke up and now they're getting back together and all of the older people, older men in particular, older white men in particular, are losing their shit.
They are completely losing it. And do you know what's really funny? They can't actually practice too often together because then they're afraid the tour is not going to happen.
That's so funny.
And they talk about women being too emotional. They literally have to put these two guys in separate corners of the world just so they don't fight and the tour can happen. So
50-year-old men are so emotional.
I know. So I stand by it because I love a nostalgic,
Reunion.
yeah.
And I like
throwback.
Wonderwall.
No comments.
Today is gonna be the day.
Like the
Moving
War
right
Bells
past it.
singing. All right, this is a
Let's talk
topic.
about someone who actually has talent.
Yes, this is a topic that I actually do not know much about, but I'm bringing it to you because I want you to inform me. So Chappell Roan, she is
Chappell Roan.
okay. Alrighty, I will call BS on myself. She blew into the scene over the last couple of months.
Yes.
She's been an underground artist for quite some time, from what I understand. She's been doing these. She reminds me of Lady Gaga in
Yes.
her when she first came onto the scene. So she's a bit quirky. She's out there. She's got her own unique style, and she's always been known as a bisexual queen. She's all about that, and now she's hit mainstream popularity. And she's kind of gone, everyone, go away. This is not for me. You are not my target audience. I do not care about you. I'm not your friend. Don't touch me. And she did a bit of an Instagram spiel, and it just got me thinking, like, wow, I didn't know who she is. I like her vibe, but I also jumped on the bandwagon of being a Roan fan. But like, clearly, I don't know how to say her name. I'm not really truly a stan, but it just got me thinking about celebrity, the breakdown of barriers and how we think we know them. And what do you think about her saying?
I love her, first of all. She's slightly too cool for me, but I love her songs. She is so refreshing, as you say. I feel like she really knows herself as an artist, and her aesthetic is very drag inspired.
Yes.
So it's a real like performance, and I really admire her as a young singer, songwriter, and an artist. I love her music, and yeah, in addition to like along the lines of what you said about that story that she put out there that like really assert her boundaries. Yes, 2 days ago at the VMA, I don't know if you've seen it, but on the red carpet, she yelled at the photographer. The photographer sometimes, like these people, sometimes they intentionally try to trigger celebrity so that they'll respond, and Chappell was just like, don't you fucking yell at me.
I love.
I love a woman who is like not afraid of standing her ground.
Yeah.
And for her, she's so young, so I'm a fan.
She's very authentic. Can can I be a late bandwagon jumper? Is what I'm asking.
Totally.
All right, on board.
Yes, we are now on board. Speaking of young hip people, I recently just learned about this. I don't know if this is like common knowledge or am I like way too late, but do you know Kid Laroi?
I know one song, 2 songs.
Okay, same. But he has such an interesting story. He's Australian. Did you know that? He's Aussie and his family is from Aboriginal background. And he had a really tough upbringing. That's why his name is Kid Laroi. He's from the Gabby Laroi family. And he made it huge in Hollywood, hanging out with Justin Bieber. And he's now dating Tate McRae, who's also a super cool, super talented young artist. So I'm loving. They are my Brad and Ange.
Ooh, I like that.
Throwback.
I am on board. I know Kid Laroi because Macca's did a collaboration with them. I'm really showing how uncool I am, but I thought that was really cool. Kid Laroi, yeah, love it.
We are fans.
We are fans.
Love it.
For my final one, oh my gosh. All right, we talked about social media, and when you're born, you're given an Instagram account. I think when you're born, you're either an Android user or an iPhone user. You're born, and forget gender. Gender is old school. No one cares about that anymore.
Forget horoscope, forget everything.
It's, are you a Android user or an iPhone user? And I think the world would now be split on Android versus Apple. Okay? Forget male. No. Android, iPhone. There is a new iPhone coming out. I thought I had bought the most recent iPhone. Cost of living. Do we need another iPhone? What could it do? Like, I do not understand. What do you think about this idea of, like, you know, putting out new phones for the sake of new phones? Or what is the Apple ecosystem? Are we on board? Before I used to be very excited because it felt like there were actual big jumps. I'm not sure.
I feel like I used to be very excited before I had to pay for myself, before I have to be responsible for myself, and now every year I'm just like, how are you putting out more stuff that is like so expensive?
Yeah.
I do need to get a new phone this year, so I was paying like attention to the new iPhone, and I was shook when I realized that it's iPhone 16.
Yeah.
How? I thought mine was like 7. Like I thought 7 was like a few years ago. How is it 16?
Did we miss a few numbers? And the price of it.
I know. I can't even afford one. Even if I sell one kidney, I have to sell both kidneys.
Both kidneys. In that case. You see, next time there's a dialysis machine here because Belle sold both kidneys.
Yeah, for the new iPhone.
Yeah.
Well.
So what do we
honestly,
think?
I think I call BS on that.
Same.
I call BS.
I call BS on innovation for just, for nothing's sake, for the idea of just changing something.
Yeah, and is it real innovation, right? I feel like that's a real question there.
That is the question.
And with that, we've come to the end of today's episode of Calling BS.
A big thank you to all our listeners for tagging along, of course, on this wild ride.
Episode 5. Can you believe that we made it to episode 5?
You
don't have to high five yourself. But I do want to say a big thank you to my beautiful co-host Shaz. This has been such a fun project. Being able to come here and talk BS with you for an hour and a half every month. It's so fun. And I want to also give a shout out to our producer, Aiden, for doing a lot of kind of helping us put this together behind the scenes.
Herding cats is what Aiden would call us. Herding cats, and we are problematic. Aiden is really the celebrity. Belle, I want to say a big thank you to you. Without you kind of bringing us together and kind of going, Shaz, no, this is fun. Let's keep doing it. Every time we say we're going to do a 45-minute episode, but I just have so much to talk to you about that we always blow past the 45 minutes. So it has been the most fun project I've done, and I am really loving it. And if you are loving it too, please like, subscribe.
And reach out to us. We want to hear from you. Tell us what you think about all of the topics that we discussed. And until next time,
don't just accept the BS.
Call it out.